All set.
We're live?
You're alive.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We are actually in Nashville right now. For those of you that do not know, this is Amy. She's been in a couple videos before, and we're going to be chatting today, digging into it, but we got to come out here to Nashville and spend some time, and this morning we actually crushed the Spartan race. Want to show the hands?
Yeah, I'm all bandaged up now, but underneath this is not very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you crushed it.
I think I did well.
Yeah.
I did well. In
Yeah.
hindsight, yeah. I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but if I think back on 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do half of what I did, or even more, 75% of it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could have done one this long 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt it, knowing where you're coming from.
Yep.
53 years old.
53.
We've done videos before, but you want to give like a 60-second intro, who you are, a little bit of your story. We can dig deeper into it, but
Yeah. I 53, but I reached out to Schuyler when I was 51, so March of 2022, and just had enough of being overweight and feeling just miserable with inflammation and all the things, and unhealthy, and I was just tired of it. And I just think God led me to Schuyler because of all the Instagram people I was following, I picked him to help me lose fat, and I hired him and did his program for a year and fell in love with it totally, and lost 70 pounds, became the fittest version of myself. And then after a year, Schuyler, you hired me to come on, help you with an influx of clients because we had just been blessed with and that's where I'm at. So now I'm a year and a half into coaching amazing clients that I want to help understand that they can have everything they want for their body and their mind and health.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such an advantage. Like I've said this to clients that come in, and I'll post about it here and there, but like having you as a form of support, having you in their corner during is like such a massive advantage, because like we can give the philosophies, we can give the nutrition, and we can dig into that today, but at the end of the day, if you don't have someone in your corner who like really understands that stuff and is there to support you during it, it just makes the process so much harder.
Yeah.
What do you think was the transition for you of when you dropped the weight, or when you were dropping the weight, to going from like just doing it to get the results to really falling in love with it and getting to where you are now because of it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I spent 6 months just executing because I was tired of all the diet culture. I was tired of the diet noise. And you asked me early on to like, just forget everything you know if you can. And that was like the best advice I could have gotten, because that's where I was at. I was like, I was ready to forget everything I knew because none of it made sense to me anymore. I had tried it all and it was all conflicting at this point and just confusing. So I was like, happily, I will gladly forget everything I know. And I just executed. So for 6 months, I just executed the program and, was accountable to you. And I think that made a big difference. It was just getting accountable with somebody and proving to myself I could do it. And then 6 months in, I was like down 40 pounds. And then I think in that next 6 months, I really started understanding I could really become who I've always wanted to be. But then I think I've also become someone I never even dreamed I could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to see.
Yeah.
So we definitely, like when we dig into our fat loss program and what we do and how it's different from what diet culture teaches us, there's obviously like a laundry list. Like we have so many different things of the discrepancies of what the weight loss industry says we should do and what we believe we should do or have to do to lose weight versus what it takes to actually do it sustainably. Mm-hmm. What's like the one thing that stands out to you right now of what is that difference in specifically our program, our approach to fat loss, which anyone can do, by the way? Like this isn't just you have to join our program. Like we have nutrition strategies. Fasting is a thing that's very readily available to find. Mm-hmm. But what would you say with our philosophies is like the number one principle, whether it's mindset, whether it's strategy, that can allow people to see similar to results to what you have seen and to approach things from a sustainable way, as opposed to what diet culture teaches us of like, get there as quick as possible, but then you're probably going to gain the weight back.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest thing is like when I took on this, I think the way you presented to me, it was a program versus a magic pill. And I think that's the biggest thing is people still are looking for a magic pill and they're looking for a quick solution, and we spend years putting on weight, but then we want to drop it real quick. And I just settled in. I was miserable having put on weight for 15 years. And I was like, I really came in like, this is my last effort. And so the way your one-on-one coaching with me, and then, there was some group support and things like that. And it's a very comprehensive program where you feel supported, you feel held accountable, which I thought was important. And then it's the tools that will actually work. And I think the focus on fat loss versus weight loss was the biggest probably game changer. And I think that's what's amazing about our program is we were focused on fat loss. Yeah. And 51 years up until that, I never had focused on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big difference, a big change.
Yep.
With the 4 pillars. So 4 pillars in our program, we have walking, we have weightlifting, we have nutrition, we have fasting. Of course, there's other pieces to being healthy. There's sleep, there's stress, there's routines. Like there's a lot of other things involved with that. What to you, if you could start with one, where would you say to start? And then tell me a little bit about what that looks like going from that starting point.
Well, I can tell you I started with fasting, and I focused more on that, even though I knew my nutrition was off. By fasting, you eliminate some of the food that you're eating. So, and then I think that was the challenge was like, I thought I was addicted to food. So I didn't think I would be able to fast. But I did. And that was early on too. And so it was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so I liked that approach of fasting and proving to myself I didn't need to eat all the time, because you get caught up in the whole metabolism conversation of like, you have to eat to have your metabolism. And the bottom line is we're just overeating. And so I focused on the fasting lifestyle. I fell in love with it very quickly. And then I kind of upgraded my nutrition as we went along. And I did that a little bit slower, even though I think it's the pivotal point, the pivotal piece of the whole thing. But I think I had to wrap my head around the fasting first. And just by doing that, I was eliminating some of the stuff I was eating.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was either like right before our kickoff call, or we had our kickoff call, and then it was the week after, or a day or two after, you texted me and you were like, hey, I just fasted for 16 hours. I have no idea how I did that. Yeah. I'm assuming I should keep going. And then you know what you also said? You were like, hey, I also haven't had a Diet Coke in like a couple days. Yeah. Like, assuming I should keep doing that. And I'm like, yeah, like if it feels easy to you and it's things are clicking so far, like do it. Yeah. You don't have to, if you're like really craving a Diet Coke at the beginning, you don't need to go cold turkey. Right. But like for you, it worked and you just leaned into it.
Yeah, it did. Because when we talked a little bit about like, I told you in our kickoff call or our consult that, Diet Coke, like I was a big Diet Coke drinker, and there was like no way I was going to be able to give that up. But when I proved to myself I could fast for 15 hours, because I came to you saying I was addicted to food. And in that one 15-hour session, proved I wasn't, and I had more control than I thought I did. And even though that was simple, it was like I needed the coaching and the outside perspective to push me there. Yeah. And so I think that was the key point. And it was also the first time I had invested in just myself. Like I invested in myself. But the Coke was funny. I'll never forget that, because I did text you that, and you were like, what do you mean you haven't had a Diet Coke in 2 or 3 days? You have to share this with me, and like about celebrating the wins. And you made me feel like it was a big win,
Yeah. I mean, it was like to come in and say you're addicted to it, and then a couple days later just not have it. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. I think that's a theme of what we do, and the value of community and seeing what other people are doing is like, it's interesting because we have a percentage of people coming into our program who believe they could never fast for 24 hours. Yep. Right? Like when we get into the extended fasts, and then within a week they do it. And, some of them, they struggle a little bit. Their mind's on food. They're breaking a pattern of 30 plus years of eating every single meal. Yep. But many of them, it's just like, that was way easier than I thought it would be. And I see the value in the community from that, because if you enter and you have this belief that fasting for 24 hours is difficult or it's going to be impossible, but then you see all these other people who have been lost causes or who have been addicted to food do it and say it's not that hard. Yep. Now it gives you a little mindset shift. Yeah. I'm interested with you because at that point we really didn't have much of a community.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So where did that shift come from when you started doing like 16 moving into 24 and beyond? Because you really took on the fasting.
I did take on the fasting. Yeah. It was profound to me that I literally, 2 weeks earlier told you I was addicted to food, especially sugar. And so the fact that I just went 15, 16 hours without eating, it really isn't that. Now I look at that and I'm like, that's really not that big of a deal. But at that time, it was a big deal. And so I think I just went, okay, I'm going to do 17 hours. Now I'm going to do 18 hours. And then I just felt like I could do it. And I also quickly understood I am not operating off of hunger. Like I'm 18 hours into this and I'm not hungry. You know what I mean? So I was eating just because society tells us we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have snacks. Or this is dinner time, this is lunchtime, So once I just kind of cleared that out of my head, I was like, I tuned in quickly to my body too, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that was a lot of our coaching too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of transforming yourself and losing weight is you have to question what you think to be true.
Yes.
Like people think it is normal to wake up and eat 4 to 6 meals a day. People think it's normal to snack in between every meal.
Yep.
People think it's normal to stay up late and just scroll through Netflix or be on their phone.
Yep.
So yeah, a lot of this process is just questioning, like, is this normal? What really is normal throughout this?
It's also just not normal. It's like, it's comfort. It's just like we as a society, we've just gotten really comfortable and then it's a habit. And then you're just comfortable in your habit and you don't challenge yourself anymore. And I think that's really probably, I can often say like, this is the biggest moment or this was the most profound moment, but there's so many of them.
Yep.
But taking on this program was a challenge for me, but it was one I needed to do. And I quickly became determined to make it work. And it honestly isn't that hard. It was just, I had to get past the mental blocks of what I was telling myself I was and what I was capable of versus what I was truly capable of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking to like the timetable of what the experience was like a year to see the results. I'd say like 3 to 6 months to like from that year to really dive into the health, the science of it, understanding like what it means and becoming more of an expert at it. And like now we're, about 2.5 years in and you're like basically the same level of expertise as me. And I've been studying this since like 14, 15 years old. So with that expertise, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the benefits of fasting, especially like I share about it quite a lot. We talk about it quite a lot, but I feel like some people, they hear that and they say 24 hours without food, like you're starving yourself.
Right.
And we have clients that deal with that who like their family or their friends around them are like, why are you doing that? That's so bad for you. Of course, meanwhile, they didn't say a thing when they were having fast food.
Right, exactly.
But now that they're fasting, it's an issue. So could you dive into a little bit of like the health benefits of fasting, what it's done for you, if you want to kind of mix that in, but then also just like, what are you actually getting from diving into the extended fasts?
Yeah, I think in combination with the fast, I think fasting is a very healing thing. And because in the process of fasting, you're eliminating overeating, which ultimately is the problem, that we're creating chronic illness within ourselves from eating ultra processed food. So the fasting allows you to eliminate a bulk of that from your diet. And then, but for me, fasting, the benefits are really fat burning was the thing that I really hooked into was the fact that if I'm not eating, I can actually switch my energy system over to fat burning, which that's what made the difference in the shape of my body and other than just losing weight. So I really got very happy with the fat burning thing. And so that's a big part of it. And then there's healing as far as something called autophagy, where your cells eat themselves. So your bad cells actually eat themselves and create new, you can create new cells as well. And then there's growth hormone that's released, which I think is why my physique changed. And then as the deeper you go into it, you can have a dopamine reset. So then I think things become, you can see the world differently. Like there's just so much healing that goes with fasting. So I think between fasting and then also cleaning up my nutrition, it's just like it healed me. I'm convinced it healed me hormonally. And I think because I was at 48, I went into early menopause. I didn't know that at the time. I just assumed it was menopause. But typically the age of menopause is 52. So at one point during my program, I was down 40 pounds. And soon after that, like, I literally kicked out of menopause. And I had a healthy cycle and everything for 6 months. I turned 52 during that time. And then I went back into menopause. But the only difference I changed was my diet or my nutrition and fasting. I was taking no hormone medication, taking no medication. I don't even think I was taking anything. Like, I know right now I'll take creatine. I don't even know if I was doing that at that time.
I don't think you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it did that for me. And then because I really, truly, I know you hear that in diet culture, like become a fat burning machine, but this program to me can do that if you pair the nutrition correctly with your fasting. So that's the other benefit I had was I dialed into the fat burning side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. You absolutely did. And I think the pair is so important there of the fasting and the nutrition, because if you do the fasting without the nutrition, you're going to be miserable during the fast.
Yep.
If you do the nutrition without the fasting, it's like you can lose weight, especially if you have quite a lot of fat to lose. Mm-hmm. But most likely your appetite's going to stay the same. Like habits, it's just different of putting yourself into a caloric deficit from a fasting standpoint versus a nutrition standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the hunger you experience is different. The energy you experience is different. And it's just, to me, especially coming from the bodybuilding world where most people count macros, they count calories, like that's how they do things.
Right.
I just feel like it's so much more natural to just not eat all the time.
Yes.
To have periods without it. Like it doesn't need to be such a serious thing where we're so conditioned that if you're 3 hours without food, you're starving.
Right.
But it's like, no, we take a look at the structure of your day, the structure of the times that you can eat, the times that you don't, and what you do because of it.
Right. And then also if you're eating food all the time, you're just digesting all the time. So your body has hundreds of processes it needs to do. So there's only so much energy it can expend. So if I also fast before I go work out because I don't want to be digesting while I want to be building muscle, and it's just things like that I think are important to success.
Yeah. So we'll shift the conversation a little bit. So you've obviously seen really incredible results. You fell in love with this stuff. You became insanely passionate. But I don't want people to think that they have to have that level of passion to see results.
Right.
We have a great client base that has had awesome results from mothers, retirees, people that are athletes in college, like people that have been on the diet train for years and years and years that now test this new system, that start eating differently. And again, it's not a specific meal plan. It's just like a style of eating. No foods are off limits there. Like you can eat a normal diet with this fasting lifestyle and have lost 15, 25, 60 plus pounds. Mm-hmm. So in terms of client results and what we're getting, like what would you say to people who want this experience of getting the fat loss results, but don't want to give up their life completely in terms of they don't want to give up their favorite foods or nights out with the family or things that in the past diets that they've done have taken them away from? Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that the difference in this program and every other diet you've on is they're if you do it the way we intend it to be, that there is no restriction. Because when you go into a fast, it's not because we're, as coaches, making you go into a fast. It's something you're opting to do. It's something you're planning around your life. So you're choosing not to eat. It's the mental side of things of telling yourself, I'm choosing not to eat. You can't like white knuckle your way through a fast and be like, oh, I have to do a fast because that's the program I'm in. That's not something you and I ever encourage. Yeah. We want you to fast because we want you to get in tune with your body. Like, are you hungry? Do you actually need food right now? And when you start having those thoughts and pauses about, instead of just grabbing something out of the pantry, or it was funny because I told you this, I have clients that say that they're starving. And I'm like, and then I had one client say they were ravenous. And I was like, let's look up ravenous. Let's look that up in the dictionary. So it's like the things that we tell ourselves are leading us to make bad choices for our health. And I just think that I honestly forgot what the question was, but
just keep going.
I just think that getting healthy is just the biggest responsibility that we have. And for me, fasting and cleaning up my nutrition, listening to my body was the biggest lesson I learned.
Yeah. How do people start doing that? How do they start listening to their body more?
Really try to take the emotion out of eating and try to, well, first of all, I think the biggest thing is you gotta let go of the things you think you know, because the whole protein shake before I go to the gym and then I have to have protein right after the gym. I'm not saying there's something to that, but a lot of that comes from bodybuilders. Like, we're trying to lose some fat here. You know, I'm here to represent women across the country that are we're just average women doing our thing. You know, we're not trying to enter bodybuilding competitions and things like that. So do we need to eat before we work out? No. Do we need to eat after? No. I mean, are there occasions where you might need to, but that's where you listen to your body. You know, are you hungry before you go work out? Maybe not, you know? So I think you just have to take a pause and understand that you don't have to react emotionally to food, and you don't have to just reach for it for comfort.
Yeah.
And you have to get rid of some of these stories that you've told yourself about that society has told us as well, that we have to eat. And then also there's a big social part of it is like everyone wants to invite you to dinner, coffee, food, breakfast. It's never not that, you know? Yeah. And so I started expanding that a little bit, and like I was turning down a lot of those dates. And so now if people want to see me, they'll be like, hey, can we go for a walk? And
people know.
So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. People definitely know.
Yeah.
I agree with that in terms of the listening to your body part, especially from the mindset side. I want to add to the nutrition side of that. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that it's become so difficult to listen to their body because of all the artificial processed foods that they've been consuming. So companies having these departments where they're spending millions and millions of dollars to research these new ingredients that literally hijack our taste buds, hijack our hunger signaling, our hormones to make us want to eat more.
Yep.
Like company owners bragging about how they found this new ingredient that can make it basically impossible to put a chip down after having just one and having to finish the entire bags.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we, of course, dive deep into in our program, but something to keep in mind for someone who's just going at this on their own. Like if you're eating the processed stuff, you really can't listen to your body.
Yeah, that's true.
Like your body's going to be telling you some things that just aren't true. Like your taste buds are going to be telling you that this apple doesn't taste really good.
Right.
It tastes bland.
Right.
Whereas if you didn't have any of the processed stuff, which is what you've experienced, an apple can taste incredible. Yeah,
you definitely started me down the ingredient rabbit hole, which I didn't even really know to look at ingredients because
no one does.
But it's sad because the way our country is set up, like I should, as a busy mom that has kids and, you know, a family and a house and a business to run, I should be able to go in the grocery store, and if it says heart healthy, I should be able to trust that. Yep. But you can't. And that was one of the biggest things that you taught me was like, none of those things matter, you know? And then the whole no fat, low fat campaign, I felt like I did that in college. Like I fell hook, line, and sinker for that one, you know, and not knowing that they're pulling out fat, but then they're putting in chemicals, they're putting in sugar, you know, to make it taste better. So that was probably the greatest thing that you taught me through the whole program was just, you got to take responsibility of that. You can't look at the package of something and just assume that it's healthy because it says it's healthy, because chances are, you know, if it's, you know, we've said this before, if it's in a bag or a box with a barcode, there's something in it that you shouldn't be eating, because your body, and that was another thing that I learned after, you know, you took me down the rabbit hole, and then I started investigating myself, but your body just doesn't know what to do with that stuff because it's not God-given.
It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Right.
It's, humans have made it. Humans have interceded with the natural process of Earth.
Yep.
How do you know who to trust? Like, you hear people say, you look at a label and you see heart healthy, or you look at a label and it says all natural, or you have these keywords of gluten-free or vegan or things like that. Mm-hmm. Then you go online and you see every influencer and their mom talking about what diet's good, what diet's bad, what foods are good, what foods are bad. And like, we've talked about this, how it can just get overwhelming to
definitely
see all these things online, even when you've reached a point of what many would call expertise. Mm-hmm. So how do you know who to trust, and what would you recommend for people who are maybe just getting into this?
I think there's good resources out there to trust. I started with like a couple of people on YouTube that you were following because I trusted you. And so then I started following them. But ultimately, I have to trust myself. And I had to start digging in I wanted to learn what it was about. So, and I know not everyone's going to take the time to do that. But I think when you're, looking at you, looking at me, like all I talk about is what's worked for me. And I feel like I'm very much an example of health now because I feel so much younger than I did just a few years ago, a couple of years ago. And I have built a fit body that I've never had in my entire life. And I did all this at 53 and I did it all really, I trusted some people like online and stuff, but ultimately you took me down a route that I ended up exploring myself. And so at the end of the day, for me, I just trust myself. And I feel like I make the best decisions for myself. Yeah. I don't really trust doctors. I feel like, sadly, that's a whole push of like quick fixes.
Yeah. Do we want to go there? Ozempic?
We can.
I know you've chatted about this quite a lot, and we've unfortunately had people that have said no to signing up to our program and then have decided to go the Ozempic route or the Mounjaro route or any of these weight loss drugs. Why isn't that a good idea?
Well, if you look into the drug, it's not a good idea because ultimately it's what I believe to be true is it's stripping you of your muscle. So when you will lose weight, it is a restrictive. You are not going to be able to consume the calories that you consume, but it doesn't mean the calories you do consume are going to be nutrient dense. So ultimately, you're going to strip away your muscle. You're not burning fat, so you actually can lose 30, 40 pounds, but you're fatter, even though you're smaller. And so it's your muscle mass ratio to your fat ratio. And I've also become very passionate about the fact that women, especially, I would say 40, even though I'm in my 50s, like building muscle is like the best thing you can do for health and longevity. And so the Ozempic, to take your muscle, I mean, you're not getting that muscle back. So you have to treat your muscle like very valuable. And I've all of this I've learned in the last couple of years, but I believe it to be true because I live it every day.
Yeah.
So and then I think also the other thing is, the biggest thing also about our program is it's a lifestyle change. It really, and I don't know that I thought that when I started, but I've done it for 2.5 years now. That's a lifestyle change. That's not a diet you get on and then you get off and you gain the weight back.
Yeah.
It's a definitely lifestyle change where your Ozempics and your things like that, they're still quick fixes. You didn't change anything. You're eventually going to get off of it and you haven't changed one habit.
Yep. Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to is habit change in the long term. And to do something that's a true habit change, it has to be sustainable. It can't be something that's very unrealistic, which is why many of these diets don't work, is they say you can't have any carbs, you can't have any sugar, you can't. But it's like, and the same thing with diet plans. If we were to give our clients meal plans, I'm sure they would see very similar to success to what they're seeing currently.
Right.
But after the program's done, it's like, what do I do?
Right.
I don't want to repeat the same diet plan.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure, too, there would be the frustration of, the night that they go out to a wedding and they enjoy some food, or they have a dinner date or like something where they go off plan from what we give them. Now they're frustrated. They feel bad about it, and they're less likely to get back on the plan.
Yeah, that's so true.
So it really is about sustainability, and these drugs are just, I mean, you and I both know they're awful.
Yeah.
Like it's the symptom of the problem of specifically America, where everyone just wants a quick fix and doesn't want to work for it.
And nobody wants to own the health side of it. Like, why isn't your doctor asking you about your diet? Why is it the first thing they're doing, telling you, saying, do you want to go on Ozempic or one of the semaglutides? That's crazy to me. Now it is. But I have to also remember 2.5 years ago, it wasn't so crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then when you know why they're asking, because they're getting paid for it.
Yep. Exactly.
And because they had one nutrition class during their entire doctorate degree. So it's just, to me, it's frustrating, but it's also a breath of fresh air when you see people specifically joining our fat loss program. Like, I know there's many people outside of that doing it, but when you get to see it close hand of people who've been on the diet train for years, who finally decide, like, I'm done with this, I'm gonna trust this process. And I think that's a very difficult part for a lot of people, is to trust what we do, because it counteracts with so much of what diet culture teaches.
Yeah.
But it is a breath of fresh air when you get someone who just like trusts the process, lets go, executes, stays consistent, and gets the results because of it.
And I feel like if we look back at all of our clients, like And we have some that can do that, and they come in and they trust the process. And we have some that still want to question everything. And you can clearly see who's got the results. I mean, I'm convinced this is the way to live. I am convinced. No one will. And it's funny because on social media, like I'll put out there things that I feel like will help people, like even if it's about seed oils or whatever the case may be. And then, it opens you up for attacks. But all I can do is share what works for me. I'm not claiming to be a doctor or anything like that, but I have changed my life profoundly.
Yeah.
And I've done it through fasting and nutrition.
Yeah. Which I think like at the core of this, of what we do, it is living the way God intended us to. Eating real food, not eating the processed ingredients. Because you can find, quote, real food. You can go to the store and you can find meat, let's say, but it's been cooked in canola oil, which did not exist 50 plus years ago.
Right.
So, and then moving your body, not coming from the standpoint of like beating your body into the ground with HIIT workouts or feeling like you have to go on a run or sprint every single day, like just moving more.
Yep.
And then adding in these periods of fasting where you just don't worry about food.
Right.
And then the cool part, and this is where a lot of people, like just to clarify, I do some very extreme things, you do some very extreme things. From like the Spartan race we just did to long runs to doing these monthly challenges where we're pushing our bodies, pushing our minds.
Yep.
To me, that's like when you get to a point where you've healed yourself metabolically, you've healed your hormones, you've lost the fat, and you're in a healthy shape, healthy level of health, then you can go start having fun, start pushing yourself and challenging yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember a period where you kind of shifted more over from just like losing the fat to now I want to challenge myself, I want to push myself more?
I remember.
Okay. What was it?
It was actually, you and I were on a coaching call, and it was actually October of 2022. So is that right? Because I started in March of 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been executing.
6 or 7 months?
6 or 7 months. I'd lost 40 pounds. So I was executing, and that's when I decided I need a challenge. I'm like, I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm having great results, but I want to take it to another level. And not that you have to feel that way, but this is when I'm starting to wake up to the fact that there's something inside of me that I have been like keeping down my whole life, and I was blessed because I found you, but I have like my kids are in college and I'm able to focus on me for the first time ever. And it just felt so good. But I said, I need a challenge. Like, I feel like we're doing this. Like, we've been doing good, and we've lost 40 pounds, but I want a challenge. And you gave me, I think it was a fasting challenge, was like my first challenge. And then after that, you were already doing monthly physical challenges. And so I was like, I can do that. So
sounds fun.
Yeah. So I just started taking those on.
Yeah.
And
Most epic challenge, 1,000 burpees in 3 hours.
Oof, that was epic.
Tell me about it.
So that was the best. You might regret this one. No, you had you have a coaching thing that you do with like your peers, and so you were gonna do like someone said they wanted to do 1,000 burpees in a day, and they said that to you, and you were like, well, let's get it on the calendar, kind of thing. And you and I were working together. I had just really started working with you. And so we were checking in with each other. You have a challenge every month. I have a challenge. Anyway, you invited me to do this challenge with you. And I was like, what? 1,000 burpees? Like, I wasn't sure that was going to happen. But
you remember what I said too? Of saying basically like,
you said,
don't feel the need to keep up.
Yeah, you said, don't feel the need to keep up.
Yeah.
And you said, and you don't have to do 1,000. But I wanted to invite you to do it with us. And I was like, okay. I was honored you invited me, but then I also love a challenge, right? So we got in, we set it all up, right?
Yep.
You're in Arizona.
I'm in Arizona at my local apartment gym.
Yep.
You're in your gym.
Yep.
And I'm on Zoom with a couple of the guys that I was doing it with. And then I was just kind of like updating you like, hey, we're going to start at this time.
Yep.
And the goal was X amount of burpees a minute.
Yep.
So we're just going to do like, I think we started like 4 or 3.
Yes. Yep.
I think it was like 4.
Yep.
And we started 4 minutes. So you do 4, get to rest the rest of the minute.
Yep.
And then we go for a certain period of time and you're keeping up.
Yep.
And I'm just like, okay, 4 seems a little too little. Like this is going to take too long. Let's bump it up to 5.
Yeah.
You keep up.
Yep.
Bump it up to 6. You keep up.
Yep.
Bump it up to 7, you keep up, and like literally kept up with us the entirety of the
Yes.
time.
It was epic.
Yeah.
And so, but the funny thing is I went into it saying, if I get to 500, I'm going to be happy. And then I got to 550 and I was like, okay, if I get to 750, I'm going to be really happy. And then I think it was, the fact that we were communicating along the way, the fact that I was keeping up, I'm like, this is one of those moments. These are one of those profound moments where I'm like, you would never have told yourself you could do this, like, you're in it, you're doing it. And this part you probably won't like, I'm keeping up with these three 30-year-old guys or 29, 20, at the time, 28-year-old guys. And I'm like, this is amazing. And so that was I keep saying this, profound moment for me, because that's when I knew I had more in me than I ever thought I did. And because even then we were like, I think you were like, we're so ready to be done with this. So then it was like, we're doing 10 it got up to like 10, I think.
I don't remember how many minutes, but it was like a good amount of minutes that we're just, let's just hit 10 and let's just be done with it.
Yeah.
And it ended out working out perfectly because it was like exactly at 3 hours. We hit the 1,000.
Yep.
And then us doing just a little more.
Yep. Yes.
I think we did like 5 extra minutes. So we did 50 more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We did.
Yeah. Experiencing that was like, for me, it was so profound because it was seeing what you were actually capable of.
Yeah.
And like, you had been a badass up until that point. Like, you had taken on all these challenges. You had been getting into more and more chin-ups. Like, you were like growing and pushing yourself. And then I mean, when I asked you, I had no expectation of you hitting even like 500. I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like me, I'm fit, but I'm going into the 1,000. Like, this is going to be a long day.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And then we're just like pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I'm getting motivated talking to the guys. I'm getting motivated messaging you and seeing that you're keeping up.
Yeah.
And we just like slowly just leveled up every few minutes, every few hours, like, and just did it.
Yeah. And they were awesome. Real burpees too.
Yeah.
They were real burpees.
Yeah. Full down, full everything. And
Yeah.
then I believe we FaceTimed for like the last 10.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Which that's always going to be a great moment. Yeah.
It was epic.
Yeah. It was so good.
What are other favorite like challenges or moments or like realizations from you throughout your process? Whether it's like from the business standpoint, from your personal experience, what are things that stand out?
There are so many, but one I specifically remember was driving home and just reveling in the fat loss and where I was and how I liked, I was like, I fit in my car, everything's comfortable. I can wear different clothes and all this. And I was driving home and I was just thinking about those things. And I was like, I will never have to go on a diet again. And I remember I was like, that was, wow, this is amazing. When you spend so many years dieting, to have that revelation was just like, this is the way to, because at the end of the day, it's not that hard. It's like, don't overeat.
Yep.
But I just needed someone to show me I could believe in myself. There is a big mental side to it because I think we just use food as a crutch.
Yep.
So I think that's why it's important to invest in yourself, give yourself a program. One of the things when I invested in invested in your program was, it costs money, but I was like, it's not something I usually do. And I thought, if this was my kids, I would not have batted an eye. If they need whatever for travel softball or they need a private coach we never hesitated. And so I was like, why are you hesitating on yourself? So that was a big moment for me to just kind of let it go too.
Yeah.
So, but that was a big moment. So investing in myself, that never have to go on a diet again was great. Getting my very first chin up, unassisted ever in my life, September 11th, 2021. I'll never forget it. It's like, I just told a story about it on our group call. Was like, I'm still in awe of it.
Yeah.
Because I remember telling you when we were talking about like my fitness goals, I was like, well, it'd be really cool to do an unassisted chin up, but I did not think that was going to happen. Because I had been the fat kid in school that couldn't do it or never, but you can do anything.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite parts of your story is like where you were coming from and the belief you had in yourself versus like slowly getting to watch it in real time was so much fun.
Yeah.
Of just like having these realizations, these celebrations that you had, and slowly over time realizing like, wait, I'm way more capable than I think I am.
Yes.
I want to go back real quick to something you briefly mentioned of just like, it's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we get clients come into our program and say they're in a couple weeks in and a couple months in, they're down a bunch of weight, and they say like, it sounds crazy, but it's really not hard.
Right.
Like, this is easier than any other plan I've tried in the past, and I'm getting better results.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Like, why is that a thing?
I think because it's not restrictive. It's the thing is that if you're fasting, if you have body fat, you can fast because your body's going to rely on the body fat to burn for energy. So, people kind of worry about like starving and all that kind of stuff, but if you have body fat, you're good. But because you're not, you can eat a normal meal. You don't have to eat, a carrot stick and, I don't know, whatever diet food is. I don't even remember anymore because I eat so well now. But you don't have to have a salad with grilled chicken and broccoli and have that over and over and over again. You can eat. And so I was on a coaching call with a client, and she was like crushing it, like down 17 pounds in a couple months. And she was just like, it's just not that hard. And she was saying it more like in a very shaking her head, like shocked. Yeah, it's just not that. Like, she's like, I still eat cheese.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I know. So, it's not that hard if you just, it's all about overeating, and I don't want to downplay the fact that there's a lot of mental work that you have to do. Because if you're using food for comfort, you gotta get real with that stuff. Yep. And that was another thing you pushed me to do, is like take radical responsibility for your choices, which I'd never really considered, because I'm thinking I eat food because it sustains us and we have to eat food or we go hungry. But no, you don't. You don't have to eat Chick-fil-A every night and eat ice cream before you go to bed, that. But if you choose to do it, you got to own it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Own the results that come from it.
Yeah. So I think as far as like, it's not that hard. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's about overeating.
Yep.
So, and the hard part is wrapping your brain around, not feeling deprived, but feeling like you're just making a better choice for your health.
Yeah. And I think that's where people get it wrong, is they hear not overeating and they think that they have to eat as little as possible.
True.
But if anyone follows you, if anyone follows me and what I post,
Yep.
like, we eat well.
Yes, we do.
We leave meals full. I mean, you eat incredible meals. I've heard people say, like, I don't even think I could finish that. I think that'd be too much food for me. But you eat it and you look incredible.
Yeah.
70 pounds down, like, still working on building muscle.
Yep.
So where's that line of like not overeating, but understanding that you do have to eat enough. You do have to fuel your body.
Yeah, I think you've always preached to me, like, you have to eat in a way where you're comfortably full. Like, instead of like, you don't have to be stuffed. You don't have to be like Thanksgiving stuffed every time you eat. But when you eat, you should feel good and satisfied. And when you turn that into nutritious food, it's possible to feel that, but it's also possible to feel that for a very long time, as opposed to just eating processed food where you're going to go, your sugar's going to spike, and then you're going to crash, and then you're going to be like, your body wants carbs, I'm going to eat more, I'm starving, I'm ravenous. I mean, that's all part of the ultra-processed food game, the ravenous and the starving. It's not true starving. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like I eat amazingly. And when I post food, people are like, how do you eat all of that? And it's like, because I didn't just eat junk all day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think having that sustained energy and feeling good, like, we were out here maybe a month ago at this point, mm-hmm. and we went on a hike. Mm-hmm. And like, before we went on a hike, this was supposed to be an 8-mile hike. We took a wrong turn. I'll own that. I missed a turn and it turned into a 13-mile hike. But we had a really solid breakfast before. It was like chicken sausage, eggs, avocado. I think we had fruit in there. Like, it was just like a very full, delicious meal. Yep. And we're probably 3/4 of the way through this hike, and I'm just like, I feel so good. Yeah. I don't feel tired. I don't feel like I'm hungry and I need food. I don't feel overly full. Like, I just have this sustained energy that feels so clean. Yeah. And we ate like kings and queens that morning. Yep. It was delicious. Yep. And it benefits our body. Yeah. And so going back to that, listen to your body is like, if you eat something and you don't feel great, you got to take a look at, what do I eat?
Right.
Because I think, as strange as it sounds, a lot of people haven't made the connection that how I feel right now could be based off of what I've eaten in the last few hours.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I thought about this the other day, was the fact that because when we have clients, and even myself and you are, and we have clients and you eat clean for a while and you eat great nutritious food and good ingredients, and then you go out and you eat something and it definitely affects you. Like, you can feel like you get bloated, you could just have all the things, you don't feel great. But imagine when that's all you're eating.
Yeah.
The compound effect of that is like, that's why you're fatigued. That's why you feel bad all the time. And you could even be coming to a norm of like, this is just how I feel.
Yep.
But that's one of the biggest things I learned too, was when I cleaned all that up, like, I immediately had more energy. I immediately had less I didn't have aches and pains anymore. I remember having plantar fasciitis either in the first 2 months, because you wanted me walking all the time, or walking 30 minutes a day. And I remember one time I told you, I just want you to know every step I take is painful. And then I don't know what happened, but one day I was walking and it just didn't hurt anymore. So I don't think it just happened in that moment. I think it was
like faded, but you didn't really notice.
Yeah, exactly. So that was another profound moment. I was like,
yeah,
it's like this. It's just, if you take care of yourself, I've learned so much about how it fixes so much. So much of because I think the processed food is what's hurting us.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
And we can tell, because if your diet is constantly processed food, kind of like you said, you hit this equilibrium where you just always feel
Yeah.
You don't feel great, but maybe you're not like miserable, but you just don't feel much. But then when you clean up your diet and you eat real food and you eliminate the processed food, and you do that for even like a couple weeks, and then you go out to eat at a restaurant, or maybe you have something that's a little more processed or higher sugar, like, you really feel it.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful from a long-term standpoint,
Yes.
because now you're not going to want to eat those things, not just because they're unhealthy, not just because you can't, or it's not part of your diet, but because you notice how poor they make you feel.
Right. Yeah. That's a very, very, very good point.
Yeah. When did you have like a sort of shift? Because you were eating out consistently.
Yep.
Like, it's not like you immediately went from where you were to this perfect diet. Like, you were going out to eat. You were slowly phasing out ingredients out of your house.
Yep.
Do you remember, was there a specific point where like you started feeling, hey, when I eat this, I don't feel good? Or were you pretty like just over time consistent and you didn't really hit that tipping point?
You know, I cleaned it up pretty quickly, and I wanted results. And again, I wanted to execute. So I was very clean for probably a good few months before something just like, but I do remember, I don't think I ever told you this story.
Is this confession time?
Oh, unfortunately. I had given up Diet Coke, and I was super excited about that. And then I was drinking a lot of water. And this is probably 3 or 4 months in. I don't know.
Okay.
And I decided I needed something. But it wasn't going to be a Diet Coke. So I got a Sprite Zero. And I stopped at a gas station. I got it. I never told you this. That hit my stomach. I literally thought I could have called it 911.
Yeah.
I was in so much pain immediately.
Yep.
You know, and I, of course, didn't call 911.
Good.
I toughed it out, but it was a huge lesson.
Yeah.
It was a huge lesson. So, yeah, I think at that moment, that was part of me. I definitely walked away from that going, okay, this ingredient thing is a thing.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go long enough, even a couple weeks, like you said, your taste buds start changing. You feel better. It's like it immediately is going to help reduce inflammation, because the processed stuff is causing most of the inflammation, and a lot of sugar is causing the inflammation. So that was pretty profound. And then the cake story is a good one too, but that's when I walked into a grocery store, and it was another profound moment of like, I really realized I had transformed into a different person. Was our local grocery store, they have this massive like cake display of like huge pieces of cake, icing. I mean, they look amazing. And Fat Amy, I used to call myself Fat Amy, would have 100% just taken it, because it's right there for you to take the cash register. But when I walked in, I don't know, this wasn't that long ago. I walked in, and they have also the beautiful produce section, and they had like these amazing Honeycrisp apples, and they were all shiny, and then they had sumo oranges, and the cake didn't even interest me. Like I didn't even look at it and go, wow, that would be really good. It just didn't even interest me, but I wanted that Honeycrisp apple. And I took it home and it was very sweet. It was very decadent. It was almost too sweet, but I think that's just because I cleaned up my, like if I had still been Fat Amy eating ultra processed food, that apple wouldn't taste
like anything.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a big moment too.
It's cool because like I feel the same. Obviously you feel that way, but I know a lot of our clients are starting to experience that where their taste buds change and things that they maybe didn't like in the past, they now love, or things that they loved in the past that were super processed and artificial, they now think are disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing. Like it doesn't take perfection. It doesn't mean you have to eat an absolutely perfect diet. It's just shifting it. And over time, your taste buds do change.
Right.
And your preferences change.
Your preferences change. And that's the big thing. It's like, and that's what, once you start eliminating some of that stuff and you start feeling better, and then you have a little bit of it, and you have an experience, either physically experience or mentally you could have an experience of like, I really wish I wouldn't have eaten that. Like it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, but I ate it anyway. Like when you can start reconciling some of that and sit in those moments of like, okay, this did not feel good. And you taught me that too. Like make a point of making a note of that. This did not feel good. Or even if I ate something, I felt bad about it. Like it didn't even taste that good and I ate it and I didn't exercise self-control. Like I don't feel good about the choice I just made. Like own that too. So the next time you're in that situation, it made it easier for me not to make that choice because I don't want to feel like I can't control that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's powerful because most people they'll distract. They'll eat something and they'll feel bad about it, and they'll either eat some worse things to try to numb themselves, or they'll go straight to social media or their phone. Like a lot of people don't have the discipline, the self-control, or even the courage to sit in the discomfort of that didn't feel good.
Right.
Like I've shared a little bit of my story with mental health of anxiety, but like I had a very direct correlation between what I was eating and my mental health of how I felt. And so I didn't even know it was food related, but when I figured it out of, hey, when I eat processed sugars or processed carbs, or when I have alcohol in excess or consistently over time, or even like the artificial sweeteners, I am anxious. I'm like not comfortable in my body. I'm very self-conscious, and it makes no sense for someone who doesn't understand the gut-brain connection.
Right.
But if you're consuming these things that are damaging your gut health, they do have an impact on how you feel mentally.
Yep.
And for me, as soon as I made that realization, it was like the biggest motivator. I don't want to feel this way, so I'm not going to eat this way.
Yeah.
Instead of, again, once like diet culture, I have to eat this because it's healthy. I can't eat this because it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's more making decisions based off of how do I want to feel, who do I want to be.
Yeah.
Instead of what do I have to do or what should I do.
Right. I think that's a great point. And I think especially with a lot of our client base, because a lot of them are my age and, you know, where we come from. And I had that realization of like when you just said what I should eat or what I should do, it's like if you think about it, it's like, and that's why I think it's so cool that I'm like having this awakening moment of like becoming who I think I was supposed to be, because you're born, you have parents and they have expectations of you, and you have siblings, they have expectations of you, your friends' expectations, husband's expectations. Like, not that anyone's imposing that on you, but you have this role that you feel like I've got to be a wife, I've got to be a mom, I've got to be all these things that you never even take the time to figure out who you are. So it's really a cool time. I think if you're struggling with your self-image and you're struggling with your fat loss and just building strength and just being who you want to be, because you're done playing all the roles, and then you find yourself being like me, an empty nester, and I'm like, I've wrapped my whole life in my kids, you know? And so here I am. So what am I going to do? And my encouragement is just do something and really invest in yourself at this time, because there's too much greatness that comes with it.
Yeah. That's an awesome point. And I want to give you the floor to speak about women, specifically moms, who have been so wrapped up in giving and have been incredible moms, incredible wives, and this applies to men too, incredible husbands, course. Incredible dads. Yeah. And through that process, they've lost the touch of knowing themselves and giving to themselves. And I know a lot of mom, dads, people in that situation who've gotten to the point that they feel like it's selfish to put time into them. Yeah. Like, hey, I need to give time to my kids. I need to give time to my family, to my job. And then they put themselves last on the barrel.
Yep.
Would you say you came from that place?
Yeah, I think so. But I also want to emphasize that it's self-imposed. Like my husband never asked me to put myself last. My kids never asked me. It's just what moms do. And I can't speak to dads because I'm not a dad. But it's just what moms do. We take care of everybody else first. Husband, the house, the kids, the friends of the kids, whatever we can do to make everyone else successful. That's just typically what we do naturally. Again, not self-imposed. I believe most of us do it self-imposed. But even our church, even our friends, and we're all playing a role to like manage everyone else's expectations of us, right? So I think the greatest thing that you can do is it's okay. And I had to come to terms with it, but I had to say it's okay for me to be selfish. I have given, and I can be proud of what I've given. And I love the way my kids were raised. My home life is beautiful. Everything was beautiful, except I had let myself go to the point where I didn't like looking at a picture of myself. I didn't like looking in the mirror. And I'm like, what really sucks about this is that I have a great life. We go on great vacations, at home, everything's great. I don't like myself. And that was like where I was like, yes, spend some time on yourself. And I literally told my husband because he works super late at night. And so even though when I started the program, I was doing all the things, I was fasting, I was cleaning up the ingredients and all that, but we were still trying to, have dinner at night, and we eat out on the weekends, which was something we kept going. But he was coming home 8, 9 o'clock at night. I was cooking dinner occasionally. But I'm also cleaning the kitchen at 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like I'm a few weeks into the program, and I'm having success, but I'm like, this is not working, because if I'm going to eat late at night, that's just kind of works against the whole day. Anyway, I had a conversation with him, and I was like, hey, I need for the next, I don't know, year, month, a few months, I need Monday through Friday, you're going to do dinner, I'm going to do dinner. And he was totally supportive, but that was empowering for me to say, I need this, and that's what I want women to do. I want them to understand it. I'm such a better wife now and better mom because I spent that year feeling good about myself. And when I say that I'm confident for the first time in my life, like, I can't get across to people what that means. I have been confident in my business. I've been confident in areas, but to feel like totally understand it, I'm a confident person.
Yeah.
It's never felt that way before. To feel that at 53 is better than to never have felt it at all.
Yeah. And I think it's confidence, and it's also self-certainty.
Yeah.
Of like knowing who you are, and honestly probably self-respect too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Of putting
Agreed.
in the work that you have and earning what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't take a pill. It wasn't a quick result.
Right.
Loving what you see in the mirror it's part of it. It's a big part of it, and it's a major bonus, but it's who you become along the way.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize a million times, because I know women have heard in the past, hey mom, it's not selfish for you to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. But there's still that fear of like, well, if I take care of myself, other things are going to fall to the side and fall apart. Right. But what you just said is that you have never been a better mother, better wife. Right. Your life has never been better in those other areas. Right. Yeah. I believe that. Yeah. And I just want to drive that home, because there's that. It's just a tendency to think that if I take care of myself, if I make an hour a day for the gym, or I say no to certain foods, or, I make decisions regardless of what other people want of me, that somehow my life's going to get worse. But it's the exact opposite. Yeah. Like, health is so comprehensive that it's not just you get in better shape and you look better, but it's like all these other areas of your life can now improve because of who you've become in the process. Right. But the biggest thing you said was I did it myself. Mm-hmm. I did it naturally, without the pills, without the magic pills and the gimmicks and all of that. That's the difference of what I went through this time versus any other time I've lost weight, is the fact that I proved so much to myself doing this. I lost 70 pounds of fat. Like, that is not an easy task. You know that model of pound? Yes. 70 of those. Yes. That's insane. And I did all the gym. Like, I built all the muscle. Like, that's just from doing the work. Yeah. And that's where you get confidence from, or self-certainty and self-respect. And I think that's what it is. I think I respect myself. And I think when I was 70 pounds overweight, there's no way I could respect myself. Yeah. You ready for the $1 million question? Are you on steroids?
I am not on steroids. This is all natural.
Yeah.
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 It's amazing.
I think that's the coolest part is like the physique that you've built, and you've earned it. Like, I don't think you've missed a single workout for these 2.5 years.
Right.
And it's been like, at the beginning you were doing your gym, and then you were taking classes at your gym, and then we started working out. So I started assigning you workouts. You started at 4 or 5?
Start at 4.
Start at 4, pretty quickly went to 5, and then 6, and then 7.
Yep.
And you work out every single day.
Yep.
Haven't missed a workout.
Nope.
Disciplined, like you're pushing. You're not just going to the gym and just like lollygagging.
Oh, no. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you taught me all of that because I learned also the gym to me is like brushing my teeth. It just has to happen. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't have to do a ton of planning. It's just automatic. But I think that's important that you get there. But I'm there. I'm going to make the most of it. I went to the gym for years, checking the box that I went to the gym. I'm still fat. You know, it's the things that you like, I'm going to the gym. I can't lose this weight. Then it's easy to go, it's got to be my hormones. It's got to be my age. And I'm just here to tell you, it's none of that. It's you've got to really want it, but then you've got to do the work. But once you do the work, you become a different person. I don't consider any of it work now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just who I am.
Let's dive into that, because I feel like some people hear the word work, or they say I make the most of it, and they picture you doing burpees in between sets, and like working out has such, depending who you ask, it's such a different meaning of what working hard in the gym means. So can you dive a little bit into like how what we do with the weightlifting and our training is different, and specifically speak to like a little bit about what you do as well? Like what does working hard in the gym and being intentional and making the most of it mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think the first thing I learned from you was just like how important it is to dial into form. Because I had been lifting weights, but I was doing it in a class atmosphere or kind of a boot camp thing. Well, no one's really coaching you in that. You're just like, you're deadlifting. Like after learning from you, I'm thankful I had not seriously injured myself. Yeah. But learning form was a big deal, and I took it seriously. Again, I was investing in myself. So I'm like, okay, I'm hiring this guy. I'm listening to him. And that's, I think, one of the mistakes people do is like, if you are convinced to put your money down and hire us, then listen, and really understand that we have a very successful business. We have a very successful client base. Just listen. So I went in with that attitude of like, I'm invested in this guy. I'm going to listen to him. And so you got my form. And I would shoot you videos because you're in Arizona, I'm in Florida. I would shoot you videos. It worked seamlessly, I thought. You give me feedback. I got the form dialed in. But then I realized through your coaching, I had to lift heavy. And I was never one of those women that was like a 10-pound weight kind of gal. I was probably always like a 20-pound weight kind of gal. But, I mean, I'm a 40, 50-pound weight kind of gal now. Yeah. And that whole myth of like how you're going to get bulky if you lift weights, it's just so not true, because I've been doing it for 2.5 years and I think my physique is fine. I don't feel like, I feel like you can see my muscle, but I don't feel like I feel great about myself and how I look. I wouldn't consider it bulky. Yeah. But so learning form and then lifting heavy and not being afraid of it. So that's what we teach. It's not a ton of exercises. It's very foundational. It's the basics, basically. It's the traditional moves that will help you build muscle and help you strengthen your body to where it's very functional, right? Yeah. And that's what I think. Absolutely. That's what we do. But when I say go to the gym and make the most of it, it's like, I'm not there to socialize. I don't want to be there all day either. But when I'm going to lift those weights, I'm thinking about every rep I'm doing. I got my mind in it, and just making the most of it. And it doesn't mean I have to do tons of reps either. It just means I got to challenge the muscle. Yep.
I feel like because we worked out the past 2 days that we've been here, they're just incredible workouts. Like I push you, you push me, and we really dive into it. I would love to do a part 2 and dive more into like training philosophies, 'cause we have so much stuff we could cover. Yeah. We have so much stuff, but we're going to be kicked out here soon. Yeah. Final words, parting words, things that you like really feel the need to share to someone who's watching this.
Just invest in yourself and, just know you're worth it. Like my life is so profoundly different now in the best way possible in the best ways possible. That I feel like if I hadn't made this change, I would just be 2.5 more years sicker. That's it. Closer to, imposing death on myself early because of chronic disease, probably. I would have diabetes for sure, because that's where I was headed. And then the hypertension, all of the things that come with it, the inflammation would have been ravaging. So if you're feeling that way, just know that you can fix it. And you can fix it yourself. You might need a coach. You might need some help. You might need some accountability, and that's okay. And know that that's okay. But you're worth the investment, and that's the biggest thing I want to get across.
Yeah. Amy, thank you so much. Guys, make sure get connected with us however you need to. If you're looking for fat loss help, leave a comment, go to the link to apply, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching. But just thank you for the value that you brought. Our client base, first of all, has grown so much because of the impact that you've had, but the ability for you to make a difference in our clients' lives is just unmatched. I told you last night, you're irreplaceable. You truly, the value you bring, the example you set is just one of a kind. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for taking me on.
Taking a lost cause.
Yeah, taking a lost cause. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, guys. And
thank you.
We'll see you next time.